Welcome, viewers, to the Master Your Money Show, where we're focusing on helping you accelerate your business and really getting control of your money and making the most of it as it comes in through your business. And really happy to have Hunter Leonard here on the show with us, who's just been really generous with his time to share his whole experience around business and to give you some real insight on how he's actually looked at his financial mindset and his entrepreneurial mindset and how he's brought it together with his businesses. So Hunter was a business owner, marketer, speaker, and he's founded Blue Frog. Let me try that again. Blue Frog Marketing, and as well as that, his more recent business is Silver and Wise. So that is helping mature age students, mature age Australians really take control of their business. And maybe Hunter, you can tell us a bit more about it. But my understanding is it's people who've maybe thought about business for quite a while. And are just kind of not sure maybe to hop into it or where the next steps for them to take. Tell us a little bit more about that, because that's really interesting. I haven't heard any other speakers with that focus.
Yeah, g'day Josh, and hello everyone. Yes, so Silver and Wise is about helping mature age people start and run successful businesses. So they could be on the road to starting a business. They might never have run one before, or they could be running one and they're kind of struggling with elements of actually being a business owner. So our focus is on the person and their skills and the systems they need to run a successful business. And it's actually founded on the concept of the human right of the right to work. So there's a lot of ageism in Australia at the moment. People in their 40s and 50s are being made redundant, and they can't find another job easily. In fact, they take twice as long to find a job as other age groups. So there's this endemic problem that we have, which is you've got a bunch of people in that age group who are not ready to retire. So we're going to talk a bit about money today, obviously. They're not ready to retire either emotionally or financially. So if they can't find a job, often the only option for them is to start a business. So we surveyed 10,000 business owners and found out what challenges they had in running businesses. And we created a program of 8 modules, which were the sort of 8 key challenges that those surveys told us about business owners and what they struggle with in running businesses. And those 8 modules we use to then teach people who are just sort of getting into the game, if you like.
Yeah. Look, I really like that. I mean, you've touched on a couple of things there. The right to work. That when we're not working as people, then that's when we kind of lose momentum with life. And I'm sure a lot of listeners have heard that story that older people who retire, if they don't have something to focus on, unfortunately, often those people tend to die, pass away at a younger age as well. But certainly, I haven't had anyone speak specifically to the age group you're talking about. And as you mentioned, we're on here talking about money. And I mean, out of that survey, out of your experience there, are you finding money is a big reason why these people are looking for work and they're just struggling to get into the workforce?
Yeah, totally. I don't think there's that many people that are ready to retire at 65, let alone 45 or 50. So, one of the key pain points for those individuals is that they then feel they've come from security. So they've had a reasonably well-paid job. Often they're in middle management. The higher they are in the organisation, I suppose the longer people tend to stay in corporates. But the middle management are the ones that are being shifted out. So companies are wanting to, I guess from their perspective, it's control costs and control numbers of employees. And I'm sure everyone's heard news of big companies saying we're shedding 3,000 jobs or whatever. And often that age group, the middle age, that's when people are getting into middle management. So they're in their 40s and 50s. They certainly not financially ready to be benched or sidelined, as we say. So they need some source of revenue, income, whether that's coming from a job or whether that's coming from a business, in order to get themselves through to a position where they will be comfortable to retire. And of course, everyone's living longer now too. So our age expectancy is now in its mid-80s, creeping up on 90 for women. which means that if you were made redundant at 50, you could be staring down the barrel of 40 years worth of
Wow.
unproductive time, which is not good for finances, but it's also not good for people's emotional health. That people like to be productive, and when we're working and happy and productive, and we're usually doing better in life. So
yeah, totally. And tell us how you got into that. A bit about your journey there, and why you chose to focus on this.
Yeah, so I've run a strategic marketing business, as you said, Blue Frog Marketing, for 20 years. And I was looking to expand that business and work out a way of scaling the business. One of my mentors said to me, have you thought about having mature age people working in your business? So we'd started talking about this idea of a licensed model. So using our intellectual property and all those surveys and the information we developed to have other people deliver it for us, a bit like financial services, like an insurance broker or a financial planner, are often in networks. So we came up with this idea of a mature age network of business advisors. And as I researched this concept of mature age, I came up with all of this data on ageism and the Human Rights Commission and all the information that they had about corporates basically shedding this age group out of their workforce, and the difficulties they were having finding work, and the fact that quite a significant percentage were then wanting to go on and start a business. And yet their main problem was that they didn't necessarily know how to run a business because they'd come out of corporate. So often when you're in corporate, you have a deep technical skill in some kind of stream. So you're either working in sales or marketing or finance or HR or whatever part of a business, but often at middle management level, people don't have that general management skill. So there's a lot of skills to running a business, as you know, and so you have to learn those somewhere. So we thought we'd be a good source for that specific mature age group to teach them how to be business owners.
Yeah. What a fantastic need there, because I know a lot of people have those dreams of running a business, but how to or what they need to do to actually get up and running is it's not a simple search on Google to go and do that.
That's right. Well, you can search on Google, but you're not necessarily going to get all the advice you need. There's a lot of false promises out there on Google about being able to go into business and make millions of dollars from basically day one, and people talking about torrents of leads and all these sorts of things. So you got to wise up that pretty much every business, it doesn't matter how big it is, has these certain skills that you need to handle. One of which, of course, is handling money, which we'll talk about. But in order to be a good business owner, you have to have your handle on all of those. We call them levers, or we talk about the idea of a business having 8 rooms, and you've got to visit each one of those rooms as a business owner in order to be successful in the long term.
Yeah. And I know that you've written a book on that generation experience. Is that 8-room model put into the book to teach you how to do it? Yeah,
I'm a big fan of basically giving away all of the answers when I write a book. So the book covers the whole thing. So when somebody reads the book, they could basically, if they're a self-starter, they can go ahead and then understand what elements their business is going to need.
Yeah.
To a greater or lesser extent, it depends on the business that you're running. Some businesses are simpler than others, but they all have an element of these 8 rooms in them. It doesn't matter whether you're mowing lawns for a living or whether you've created a relatively significant business with 4 or 5 staff, and there's still all of these elements that need to be taken care of.
Yeah, definitely. So definitely, viewers, you can check that out. HunterLeonard.com. That's your website, is it? Or where you can
.co, yeah. Well, they can check out silverandwise.com.au is where we have all our courses and access to the books as well.
Yeah, excellent. So I'm sure we'll get into a bit more of that as the interview goes on. But for those watching, you can check that out there too. Now, switching tact a little bit into the money side of things, which we touched on a bit. This is a question I've been asking everyone who's been on the show, and it's just brought up some really interesting ideas around money, and it shows how people's paths have kind of developed in business. And I didn't give you any forewarning about this question before, but I'd love for you to answer this one. If you can think back to your first ever experience of money, probably in your childhood or whether it's positive or negative, I'd love to hear a bit about that.
Yeah, look, I think the first experience was probably getting pocket money for mowing
Mm.
the lawn or doing some chore around the house for Dad. So we used to get, I think, um, originally 30 cents pocket money a week for doing our chores, and then it went up to a couple of bucks, I think.
Yeah.
Um, I think probably the first one that I really remember um, feeling like I was rich beyond measure was when I got my first job, which was pushing trolleys at Franklin's when I was
Mm.
14 or 15 or something. And I think my first pay packet was about $30. And oh my God, that was so much money. Um, yeah, and I felt like I'd earned it myself, and it was
Yeah.
mine to then do something with. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Then how did things kind of progress from there? With that your journey into business and money there. What's the kind of story there behind things?
Yeah, so I grew up in my family. My dad sort of went between working for people and running his own business. So I remember when I was probably 9 or 10 going out and helping him with his floor covering business. So he used to lay cork tiles and vinyl tiles in people's houses. So
Yeah.
I'd go along in school holidays and make a nuisance of myself until he taught me how to cut tiles and things. So I learned how to lay floor tiles by the time I was about 13 or 14, which was pretty cool.
Okay.
Um, I didn't actually start running a business until I'd had a fairly significant career in sales and marketing after university. So I worked in a pharmaceutical business for about 10 or 12 years. Then I moved to a healthcare advertising agency for a few years. So I
Okay.
probably had 13 to 15 years of business experience before I started my first business at 35. So
Mm.
yeah, it took a while to get back into it, but I still had that idea that at some point I would like to run my own business, and then an opportunity came up to do that, so I sort of had a crack at it. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, what was that kind of process like? Was it something you thought about for a while you were working, but you were focused on the current job and work you were doing? And
Yeah, so
yeah.
it was almost like running my own business because I was general manager of a office of a fairly large advertising agency in Melbourne. So
Hmm.
I ran the whole team. I had 20 staff across creative, accounts, and the suits, as we called them, the account managers. Um, and then I was sitting down having coffee with a friend one day, and he said, I need some help finding a marketer. And I said, well, what do you need? And he said, I need blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, this is how you go about it. So I wrote out a document for him to say, well, this is the sorts of skills you need from someone. They need to be able to, research your market and write a strategic plan and blah, blah, blah. I gave him the information, and he went off for a couple of weeks, and he called me about 2 or 3 weeks later, and he said, oh, well, I can't find anyone. Would you do it? And I said, well, I've got a job.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
said, no, I really want you to do it. What would it take? So we effectively signed. Our first client was on the back of a napkin with
Wow.
an agreement and a signature to start. So I then went and did what I needed to do to get the business rolling. So
Yeah.
it was in 2001. So
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, if you don't mind me asking, then what was it like financially then? You had the offer straight away, so you already had a client. Was that quite a easy step then to move out into that? Or what did that kind of process look like?
Yeah, it was an intriguing few weeks of giving notice at a place where I was running it, and then going out to start yourself, and you kind of realise day one that you're it. So I had 20 staff in the agency, and when I started my business, it wasn't me. It was
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
computer, a desk in the corner of the dining room, and one client. But financially, it was fine because we had an agreement for 6 months, a 6 month contract, if you like,
Mm.
to get rolling. So I had a bit of a soft landing into, it was earning some income from that client.
Yeah.
But very quickly we picked up our second, third, and fourth client, and then Nicole joined the business as well. So she was working at the time, and she joined and started being account manager to a couple of the clients as well. So, but we've always, in running the marketing business, we've always taken quite a conservative approach to adding staff. Is that we would get the client first, and then
Mm.
recruit staff to do it. So we were never in a position where you're sort of getting ahead of yourself, if you like.
Yeah.
We notice some businesses do get ahead of themselves. They do a lot of investment, and some businesses require it, but a lot of investment in stuff before they've worked out whether they've got clients. So I always work it out the other way around, which is, have you got a client for a business? And even a new business will say to business owners to say, have you got an idea that's valuable, or have you surveyed with the audience that you want to target to understand whether there actually is a need for it? It's one of the biggest mistakes people make running or starting businesses, is they don't actually have an identifiable need for the idea they had, and then they start it, and then they realize that there's not as many people out there that will pay the amount of money they want to charge for it that they thought. So they kind of make assumptions about it. And you'll often see this when a new shop opens in a strip shopping area in a suburb, and the new shop opens and it's all sort of, balloons and ribbons and everything, and a few months later the shop goes because they haven't found a market in that local area. And we used to notice that in our local shops quite a lot. That you go, I'm not sure that's going to work around here.
Yeah.
Sure enough, it'd be gone in a few months' time. So research is really important to understand. When you're setting a business up.
Yeah, I like that. You've just touched on two so important parts. So, going back to the conservative approach, it's a cash flow thing, isn't it? That you're and a security thing. You're getting the contract first before then you hire. And I take it you had you had some idea, then you had your hiring process kind of figured out and planned out, so that when you had that contract, you could step right into that. Is that how that looked like in the business?
Yeah. In hindsight, yes. like any business owner, I've made my share of mistakes, but we kind of, after a few years of that, we kind of worked out that once you learn from everything. We've had times where we've had clients unfortunately go out of business when they're a client of ours, and we've lost revenue. So we've had to put in place policies of making sure we're not exposed to one client for too much of our revenue. So we have a broad spread, which is a bit like investing. When you invest in shares, you have multiple shares, not just one. Same in our business as a marketing business. We don't want too much of our revenue coming from one client, because if we lose that client, then we're sort of it's short in terms of the business. And because we don't work with thousands of clients, we work with half a dozen to a dozen. One client can actually be a gorilla in terms of the business. So we try and have a spread of clients, so that if for whatever reason a contract finishes with a client, or they go out of business, or whatever, then we've got some coverage.
Yeah. I really like that approach, and I know that obviously that experience in those areas that you've learned from, you've been able to put that all into Silver and Wise.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah, a lot of that learning of running a business for 20 years has gone into the book, as well as the surveys from the 10,000 other business owners that have told us what they run into in terms of problems as well. So
yeah, I'd like to dive into that a little bit too, because then you mentioned the other side is making sure there's a need for your market too. So you've developed these systems over time, and these surveys of finding that, have you? It sounds like you've got that down to a bit of a fine art.
Yeah, well, being a marketer, surveys are really important to us. So we need to understand there's a need for our services, but also every time we take on a client, the first thing we do in our marketing model is research their market. So just as an example, this right here is a survey that I did for a client yesterday, and I'm about to go and see them later today and talk about what we've found so far as a first step of writing their marketing plan. So the first thing we do is we assess what is the total available market to their product and service. We assess the competition, who else is playing in there. We assess the strengths and weaknesses of their business. We then go out and research as many of the target audience as possible to understand their needs and wants, because framing the needs and wants and then matching your ability to deliver on those, which many people will know the term marketing proposition or value proposition. It's about, you can't have a value proposition unless you understand what value people are seeking for a product. So, but once you know what they're seeking, then developing a value proposition is actually quite straightforward, because you can say, well, okay, well, what part of their need and want do I want to service?
Yeah.
At what position in the market do I want to be? So do I want to be a premium brand offering a really exclusive and higher priced service or product, or do I want to be a value proposition at a lower end of the market and focus more on volume? So the classic case would be, pens. If you were selling a pen, you could sell, this pen here, which is $3 or $4, and you could sell 1 million of them, or you could sell a pen worth $500 and sell 10,000 of them, and you still get the same result. It depends on what you decide you want to be to the market. But no matter what position you're going to take, you have to understand whether actually that exists. This is a really great case study, is that Bunnings kind of owns the home do-it-yourself renovation market in Australia, and they had it to themselves for many, many years. And whilst there was other little local hardware stores like Home Hardware around, they were generally just the local place you went and got a few screws or a screwdriver or something when you needed it. But Bunnings is where everyone went to get the bulk of what they needed for their project. And then Masters comes along and tries to launch exactly the same positioning as Bunnings, almost down to the fact that if you looked at their stores, they had graphics that looked the same on the front. It was just a different colour.
They tried to be a little bit premium, but they really
tried to be. But it was a big box offer. It was very, very similar. Whilst they would probably argue that they were trying something slightly different, it didn't work, because they basically went up exactly the same positioning as Bunnings, and a decade too late. So that's a classic example. If in business, if there's a big player in a market, you could become the small player and offer faster service or a higher priced premium product that actually delivers something a higher value for a niche of people that are looking for something different.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And every market operates that. Doesn't matter whether you're in a business like ours, consulting to people. There's different players in the market, and you've got to find where's the place that you can live and breathe and provide a good value to clients and make a profit.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I know we're going to get into the free course you're offering a bit later on, and I'm sure, as you said, you like to give out your best stuff for free, so that there'll be plenty of stuff to dive into that as well.
Yeah, sure.
What I'd really like to know too, and again, this is a question I've been asking everyone who comes on the show, is in terms of our mindset and how we think about entrepreneurship and business, and then the money, the financial side of things. What's the one key thing that's made the biggest difference in your entrepreneurial mindset and then your financial mindset?
Yeah, okay. So the way I look at that is that everyone sees entrepreneurs as the people that go out there and sort of break new ground and come up with, in fact, the derivation of the word in French means to sort of basically enter something new, effectively. And then on the other side, you've got this idea of running a business, which actually has structure and form and function and needs systems and processes and policies and procedures and all these other sorts of things, which sometimes can be anathema to the entrepreneur who just wants to go out there and, break stuff apart and create new things and chase shiny objects. And I laugh because that's very much me. But you have to have both. So for me,
so good.
It's a balance of the two. Is it the thing that's made me a better business owner is understanding I need systems and processes and ways to manage risk. Whereas I'm more likely to go out there and go, opportunity, shiny object, chase that one down, and So I think if you can balance those two things, you can become a really strong business owner, or really strong in a job too. Even within a job, you can have the idea of creating new things and new ideas. But if you then have this process of taking that idea and putting it through the test procedure, if you like, to see if that idea has legs, then those two balance out. And I think it's the same thing with this financial mindset. You can be an entrepreneur, but you've got to say, well, I can be excited and go out and get new ideas, and I can chase shiny objects, but I also need this balanced approach to say, well, is there a dollar to be made in it as a business owner?
Yeah.
I think a classic case right now, and everyone sort of jump on this pretty quickly, is the idea of WeWork, for example. You know, they're supposedly pitched as a technology company, but they're not. They're a co-working office business. They're losing money faster than you can, poke a stick at it. Hundreds of millions of dollars, and they kind of laugh when they stand up there. So that the people that run it seem to be almost pure entrepreneurs, but without the idea that if you've got investors, you've got to make money in return.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone should have that viewpoint. If you're going to go into a business, it's not a game. It should be fun, but you're going into business to make money, to make a return. Otherwise, you may as well stay in a job and just do your job to the best of your ability and get pay each month. But business is not about that. Business is about you've got to create it every month. Every start of every month as a business owner, you're responsible for creating whatever revenue and income is going to come in, managing it appropriately so there's some left over at the end of the day for you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that tends to be what people struggle with in business, isn't it? It's paying themselves first. And I mean, going back to the foundational stuff before that you said about knowing your target market and knowing that there's money that can be made and what type of positioning you put there.
And I think it's important to know that it takes a little while to start a business and to get it rolling and to get it to a point where it is going to be driving income for you. However, you can make the timing that it starts paying you income a lot faster if you don't go and spend money on things that you don't need in a startup business. Yeah. So you don't necessarily need a big office. You don't necessarily need the most expensive chairs and computers and whatever else. You don't need to have 55 different software as a service programs that you're using, technology solutions. Yeah. You can just literally run it on the smell of an oily rag so that you can actually take money out of it and income as early as possible. And then as you grow, then add things that are required and needed. But always run it based on what it's making as opposed to chucking heaps of money at it in the hope that it'll return.
Yeah. It's a fantastic point. Yeah. And a good place to start for people who are thinking about starting out or in that early phase as well. And,
totally. And it can actually be quite dangerous at the moment. You see there's so many technology solutions for business and a lot of them are software as a service. And if you add $40 US times 10 or 15 different things that you want to play with, I've got to have this and I've got to have that and I've got to have this and I've got to have that. Suddenly you've got $400 or $500 a month going out on software alone. And that's completely intangible.
Yeah.
And you may well be able to, whilst technology is important, you may well be able to just use a piece of paper and, work out your spreadsheets. If you only got one customer, you don't necessarily need zero to handle your accounting until you've got plenty of invoices to sort out,
Exactly. Or looking for those free versions of software that maybe get you most of the way there.
Yeah, exactly. Like that, and I actually do this quite regularly. I'll have a suite of software and things that I'm using in it, and then I'll find, well, if there's one or two that I'm not using as much as I need them, I'll just cancel them.
Yeah,
and start again. So, because even in a business that's been going for 20 odd years, expenses can get out of hand if you don't keep a good tight control on them.
Yeah. And look, for those listening, I know Hunter has put together. It's sort of like a companion to your book, isn't it? The Basics of Business Ownership.
Yeah, pretty much. It's read chapters of the book and then do certain practical exercise on it. So it's good for somebody that's starting a business, but it's also good for somebody that's running a business now and finding that they're having trouble, say, with quality management or people management or something.
Yeah. So I know that that's normally $65 US to purchase that as well, but you're offering that to the viewers of the show.
Yep.
And tell us what they'll get by taking advantage of that fantastic offer.
So they get an electronic copy of the book. It's in there as a PDF, and
great.
they can download that straight away. And then there's about 50 exercises. So you read a chapter, and you might do 3 or 4 exercises on. Probably, if I quickly run through the 8 rooms, is probably give people a bit of an idea. But the first one is strategy and leadership. So that's the idea of setting your goals and aspirations, working out a strategic plan for achieving those goals, and then working out who you need to follow you on the journey. So this might not be staff; it could be suppliers, it could be your stakeholders in your business, your accountant, your other shareholders, whatever. But as a business owner, you are naturally taking a position of leadership, and you need others to follow you on the journey if you're going to run a successful business over time. Even if you never employ staff, you're still going to have people that you outsource services to. Then the next is marketing and PR. So it's the whole idea of aligning a marketing strategy and a PR strategy to your business strategy. The next model is sales. So it's how do you actually then go and sell your product and service to one person, because if you can't sell it to one, you can't sell it to many. Then there's managing people, which is, again, all those people that are involved in your business, whether they're suppliers or stakeholders, or indeed staff if you've got a few staff. How do you manage them appropriately? We cover the very basic grounding of that survey we did with 10,000 business owners, sort of identified what challenges they ran into. So we've decided to give the absolute basics of what you should have as a foundation in any business. Then there's quality management, money management, of course. Money comes into your business, it goes around in your business, and then it goes out of your business somehow. We cover the basics of just the things you need to manage the money effectively. And then there's client service, which is, how do you know once you've delivered your product and service that the client actually got what they expected to get? And hopefully a little bit more, because if you deliver a little bit more than people expect, then they're often more likely to refer you and to use you again because you've delivered something of value. And then the last one is this whole idea we live in a global market, technology running rampant, markets change. You can't start a business today and think that in 10 years' time it's going to be doing exactly the same thing. So this idea of adapting and disrupting yourself as you go along. So you can start with one iteration of your products and services, but then as the market changes, you can be continually reinventing yourself as a business owner and reinventing your products and services so that you can survive. Otherwise, you end up standing on the side of the road with your wagon wheel in hand, watching all the cars speed by and going, I think I've been bypassed.
Look, that's huge amount of information there. I know that anyone take advantage of that, viewers, because there's going to be so much in there. Whether you're starting out in business or whether you're already in business as well. I know Hunter's just outlined those different areas there, and dive into it. And I'll be checking that out myself and looking at how I can apply that to my business. Hunter, I just want to thank you again for joining us on the show and just for sharing your insights and your wisdom there, and just being so generous with what you've put together for other people listening. That's fantastic.
No worries, Josh. You're most welcome, mate. It's always fun to share it with other people.
Yeah, definitely. And viewers, thank you for watching. We hope you've gotten so much out of this, and stay tuned for the next episode where we're going to keep diving into these different areas of business and finance, and how you can bring it all together really to make the most of your life and then live the life that you want to live.
Cool.
Thanks again, Hunter. Thank you, viewers. We'll see you later.